there, Facebook, YouTube, out there on the internet. This is Ethan Janey with Piano Tech Radio Hour. We're about to get started. We have another exciting guest today, and I will be introducing the program in just a moment. We'd like to let people get a minute to get seated and get yourself comfortable. If you're checking out the stream out there on the socials, stick around for a minute, see what's going on. We will put some links into the comments on socials. If you did want to join us in the Zoom room directly, you can do that. And you can ask questions, you can comment, you can just sit by and sit back and relax. If we do get comments on the socials, we try to keep up with those a little bit harder than in the Zoom. But you feel free to comment and see if we can catch it. Otherwise, we will get started here and I'll introduce the program and we will do this thing that we call Piano Tech Radio Hour. So, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. This includes manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, is to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. That's an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Radio Hour. It's just $16 a month. You get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. Join using the link bit.ly/joinptrh. That's bit.ly/joinptrh. We also have a podcast audio-only version of this program, which is popular worldwide. It's been top 100, top 10, even number 1 in various locales in the performing arts category on iTunes. So take a listen there. It's great for the car, in the gym, doing the dishes, wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Check out our Substack blog, where we dive deep into content on the technical specifics of piano work, as well as some tangential topics. You might get a lecture on the history of the piano action, constructing pianos, designing pianos, rebuilding pianos. But then we'll go afield a little bit and we'll talk about composition. We'll talk about practice, the neuroscience of practice, for example. So subscribe to Piano Technicians Masterclasses or check out the blog there to see if it's of interest. Now, we also have our socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Love to see you over there. You can keep up with what's going on. And as always, go to pianotechniciansmasterclass.com, where you can also get on our email list and keep up to date with every new guest and join us each week via email updates. All right, I would like to introduce our lovely guest for today. I was going to ask him how to pronounce his last name, but I forgot to do that beforehand. How do you like to say that last name, Ben?
It's Tweedt.
Tweet? Okay.
Mhm.
Tweedt. Tweet. Throwing a D in there for delicious.
Yeah, that's
Ben Tweet is a Cincinnati-based pianist, composer, arranger, and educator whose path spans classical roots, adventurous improvisation, and a thriving freelance career across the genres. From his early classical training to winning the 2019 American Jazz Pianist Competition at the Yamaha Artist Center, Ben has built a reputation for fearless versatility. His debut trio album, Life Cycle, released this June 2025, showcases his sharp musical instincts and expressive, narrative-driven playing. Ben Tweet, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. I always like to get started with a walk down memory lane. What was it like when you first encountered music? What are your first memories of the art of sound and how you started to think it might become a deep part of your life?
Yeah, so my first memories of the piano are actually, I'm the youngest of four kids, and my oldest sibling, my sister, was in piano lessons. And I even remember what she was working on at the time. She was working on the theme from the movie Titanic,
Mm,
the My Heart Will Go On, right?
sure.
And I, before I even enrolled in piano lessons or anything, I would always, as soon as she got done practicing, I'd hop up at the piano and try to figure out, the melody of what she was playing, right? And my parents kind of realized, oh, we should get this kid going in piano lessons. So At the age of 6 is when I started. We had just recently moved to Council Bluffs, Iowa, and I actually ended up taking piano lessons from, the same teacher as my sister, but also the same teacher that my dad had taken childhood piano lessons from. So, and her
Wow.
name's Bernil Hansen, still teaching lessons in Council Bluffs. Um, and that was how I got my start, kind of going down the conventional, uh, classical piano route. And I took lessons with her all the way from when I was 6 until I graduated from high school.
All right, wonderful. Well, I'm familiar with Council Bluffs on the drive from Chicago over to Omaha
Yep.
and um, Lincoln, Nebraska. I have some
Yeah.
friends in the music world over there in those
Mhm.
cities,
Yeah.
so not far down the road there. Good old Midwestern upbringing.
That's right. Yeah. And Omaha was kind of, I went to the University of Nebraska for my undergrad, and Omaha is kind of where I got my start as a working musician, and where I started playing out. So Omaha
Okay,
definitely a very fond place in my heart. I like Omaha a lot.
wonderful. Yeah, I played in a band probably about a decade ago, maybe even 15 years, and the guys were from Lincoln and Omaha. It was called Head of Femur was the name of the band. The
Okay.
singer in the band had played drums with Conor Oberst
Oh, okay. Yeah.
early on,
Yeah.
and they were all kind of part of that scene, that Saddle Creek Records
Yes. Yes.
scene. We
Yes.
went and played at the Slowdown, and
Yep.
yeah, it was fun. But on the other side of things, I have been to the what do they call it? Maybe the World Series of Finance, the meeting of the of Warren Buffett's Berkshire
Yeah.
Hathaway. I went to one of those
Yes.
as well in
Oh, that's
Omaha.
fun.
That was fun. So,
Yeah, one of
anyways,
my
I know the
teachers
vibe.
in high school lived like right down the street from Warren Buffett.
Okay.
I remember him telling us, uh, it was my band director actually in high school. I remember him telling us at the beginning of a rehearsal one day that he had seen Warren Buffett mowing his lawn that morning. It's like, even the richest guy in the world, still takes the time to mow his lawn. You can you can take time to practice too. It's like, all right,
Yeah, it's good to know.
yeah,
That's good to
right.
know how we build our habits. I would think, yeah, he might pay for that. But yeah, you gotta save every penny you can, I guess, when
That's
you're Warren
right, and,
Buffett.
and stay rooted. I think doing that kind of stuff, even if you can afford to pay somebody else to do it, I think that kind of stuff keeps us in touch with our humanity. Like doing the dishes, mowing the lawn, whatever. I like. I find a certain kind of appreciation for doing those things myself.
Yes, they say before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Yes,
After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
yes, yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about how music has enlightened your life. We'll also maybe listen to a musical sample here in the next few
Hmm.
minutes. But so at some point you started your classical training, but at some point you started to shift into the world of jazz.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what was the spark there, and how did it gain momentum? Because, depending on how you grow up, I mean, I've interviewed people who, man, they had some high school program, or it was just, they had great jazz exposure,
Yeah.
all the way to folks who never even really heard of jazz before they got out of high school or something. What's been your relationship to the art of jazz?
Yeah, so early on, in most schools, they have jazz bands, and the programs have varying qualities, but most kids can dip their toe in the water at least, right? And I'm of the opinion that doing a school jazz band, while it's a good way to get started, it's not really a way to learn how to actually do it. So
Hmm.
as I was going through the school jazz band, I played in them and took some solos or whatever, and I wasn't very good at it. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I never really felt that it was something that I was like naturally good at or gifted at. There were other students in the bands like, oh, they can take a great solo. And I can play the piano well, but I don't really know how to improvise, right? So
Hmm.
that was kind of my stance on it for a while. And then one of my teachers suggested that I go to this summer jazz camp. It was a week-long thing that they did at the University of Nebraska, and it was part of this legacy of the Stan Kenton Orchestra throughout the United States in the 70s and 80s started this series of camps all over the country where students would get one-on-one and sometimes group ensemble classes and stuff with these professional jazz musicians, and you'd learn how to do the stuff from people that actually do it. And so for me at this camp, that guy was a guy named Ken Keener who lives in the St. Louis area, and I got to hang out with him for a week. We did piano master classes. He helped coach on like rhythm sectionals and ensembles and all this stuff. And it was through that camp that I really kind of started to figure out and understand how this music actually worked. And that was kind of the bug that got me really getting into it. So then that was the summer after my junior year of high school. And then going into my senior year, I started to take it a lot more seriously. I started to practice a lot more, both classical and jazz actually. I just uh, got way more into it. I felt like something finally started to click for me. It's like I had learned all the theory and I had learned all the technique and I knew how to play the classical repertoire, but none of it really came together in any kind of meaningful way for me until I started to learn things like, harmonic progressions and forms and um, starting to learn solos off of records that I liked. That was something that I'd never even thought to do. So that's kind of where my journey really began, I think. Even though I had been in jazz bands since like seventh or eighth grade, it was really going into my senior year of high school that I really started to buckle down and do things the right way on learning how to play jazz, which ultimately, at the end of the day, it's listen to records, learn how to play like the records, get out in the community, find musicians that are better at it than you, and follow them around and do what they do. That's pretty much, there's all kinds of theorizing and ways that you can learn concepts that are great for improving your understanding, but ultimately it's a cultural music and you just got to get out there and do it. And
That's a great point. Appreciate that. Those are the key ingredients. I think if you
yeah,
if you put all those sit all in a pot, you got something special.
exactly.
But follow those musicians better than you around until they
Mhm.
say, "Get out of here, kid.
Yeah,
Come on."
exactly. I mean, and for me, that guy was this organ player. He's still a very good friend of mine. This great Hammond organ player named Mitch Town, and he was part of this really awesome organ trio. And I used to go to a bunch of their shows and just sit and watch them. It was nothing I had ever seen before. It was like just like people that weren't famous. I'd gone to like big jazz concerts with like Herbie Hancock and whatever, and that's amazing too. But it's totally different to just be in a community and see these people that like, oh, they're not in it for playing the big shows. They're in this club with like 20 people in it and they're just playing and they're doing what they do, and getting into that and just watching and observing was a huge part of my like the formation of my musical identity, I think.
Let's listen to a track here. What do you think would be a good one? I've got your Bandcamp up here, and we'll do an
let's
audio.
do
You want to
uh
share?
let's do Flow Out.
Flow out. All right, great.
That's
Get
number two.
this set up here. Computer audio, share, and flow out. Let's try that. You got it? Really nice. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I hear various potential ingredients and influences. I'm curious when
Yeah.
you hear yourself playing or composing something like that, what artists do you think of? Do you feel it's influenced by anyone specific or a set of folks or
Yeah, for sure. This one in particular, so this one is the oldest composition on the album. It's the one that I wrote the longest time ago. And this was at a time when I was listening to a lot of music by this saxophonist, Walter Smith III.
hmm,
He's a big influence on me as a composer, especially on stuff from that time. And then as far as pianists, Aaron Parks is a really big influence of mine. Particularly, he came out with this album called Invisible Cinema around like 2012 or 2013, I think. Maybe even earlier than that. I'm not 100% sure. But a really amazing album that kind of, I think the thing of Aaron's playing and composition that this composition shares a lot in common is kind of the moodiness. There's almost like an indie rock undercurrent going through it, and a lot of that stuff was really big on a big influence on me when I was like a young teenager getting into like indie rock and that kind of stuff.
hmm, hmm.
And being around Omaha, obviously, the whole Saddle Creek, Bright Eyes thing, it's like it's in the air in Omaha, right? So
Hmm.
um, and then other big influences. Gerald Clayton is another pianist I really like a lot. He and Aaron share a lot in common as pianists. I think they're of the same generation, like right around the same age, and they share a lot of influences too. And then going farther back, like a generation before that, I really like Brad Meldau. He's a big influence of mine as well. Um, and
That was
then
what I was going to say Brad Meldau. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
say it up front, but I was curious whether you'd mentioned Brad Meldau.
Yeah, yeah. Brad is like again, especially at that time. Now I think my interests have fanned out a lot more, and the stuff I write is a little bit. It sounds a little bit less like this.
Hmm.
But at the time, especially, that's all the stuff that I was really into, and I think that it definitely comes out in the writing, particularly. Those all those players and composers were it was all I was listening to at the time. So it's gonna come
Yeah,
out.
the rhythm section on a piece like that, that feel is just so. I feel like it grew a little bit out of the Miles second quintet
Yes,
stuff,
yes,
and it's really fun and both sort of comfortable and
yes,
discomforting the way that the rhythm section moves, right? Because
yes.
sometimes I'm like, where's what beat are they
Where's one?
playing on? Yeah, but it flows and
Yeah,
everybody's on something together,
yes.
um, and somehow people are just picking their parts of the beat and putting the right dash of ingredients there, and it
Yeah.
makes a really nice flow.
To me, this kind of tune is all about how you utilize space. It's really important that like because the melody and like the vibe of the song is very sensitive, right? So like you can't dig in and like groove really hard on this because it kind of is at odds with the character of the melody of the tune, right? So everything still has to be in time, right? Like everybody's playing in time, but you have to leave some space and allow some ways for the puzzle pieces to fit together. Um, this is also an example of a tune that utilizes a circular form. So where the beginning of the tune is not where the beginning of the improvisation section is. It's kind of like
Hmm.
it's like a loop-de-loop. It's like you'll start here and then you'll end up here, but then you end up getting back to the A section again, but the A section isn't the beginning anymore. It's actually the end of the form. So there's
Hmm.
uh there's some trickery going on with how the composition is constructed too. And that's something that I'm really big on as a composer is this element of um, circular forms, like forms that don't just follow the same, like in jazz and American songbook forms. A lot of stuff is like AABA song forms, right? And I like to have forms where it doesn't really have a clear beginning or an end. It's just a circle. And there are a lot of again, that's very much Miles' second quintet kind of stuff. Miles actually has a tune off of one of those albums, and it's called Circle. And
Hmm.
it's the form is kind of confounding. Like I've seen it charted out in lead sheet form, and it doesn't really make any sense compared to the recording. It's actually like it's not exactly like a rondo, but it's almost like rondo-ish. It's really unusual. So that's another big part of the tradition, and that's kind of the other thing too in jazz that's so fascinating is that it's a very forward-thinking music, but it's also all about um, taking stuff from the tradition that's already happened and putting it in a new light that you have. And pretty much all of the music that's come before is a part of this cycle of reusing whatever the previous generation did and adding a little bit, and then the next generation adds just a little bit.
Hmm. Um, I say let's listen to something else. Maybe
Sure.
something with like a little different flavor, different direction. What do you think?
Sure. How about let's do Warrior Poet.
Okay, let's check that out. that.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like that one.
Thank you.
Nice for the bass
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah, definitely. And that's
Who's the
kind of,
warrior poet? Is there a warrior poet, or is that
yeah.
just the vibe of the tune?
Yeah, so the warrior poet is actually a friend of mine, a great saxophone player in now living in Nashville. At the time he was living in Cincinnati. Friend of mine, Eric Wurzelbacher, who is that's just that's his character. The guy is a warrior poet through and through. That's that's his
And
character.
is he actually a poet? Like, does he write poetry or?
No, I mean he's a composer. He writes music,
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
that's kind of, I mean that's his.
That's his
If
poetry.
anybody that knows Eric would immediately understand what I mean when I say the guy is a warrior poet through and through. So and some of the influences that directed that one, um, I'm a huge lover of Brazilian music of all kinds, and the pattern that the drums are playing, one, two, three, one, two, three. It's kind of a modification of this type of rhythm in in Northeast Brazilian music called maracatu, and traditionally maracatu is in two instead of in three, and the pattern is a little bit longer. So it's kind of my spin on the maracatu rhythm. And obviously the way that the band is playing it, I call all my Brazilian tunes, I refer to them as gringo Brazilian tunes because I do my best, but it's its own thing for sure. I wouldn't impose to say that I'm necessarily doing it a hundred
Sure,
percent the right way.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, we had a handful of people who do something or other in the Brazilian domain, whether they're
Yeah.
native or not, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fun. I feel like a previous recent guest had, I want to say something Midwest, I forget
Mm-hmm.
where, but just something in the States. I believe it was, but then there was a Cuban influence, and
Mm-hmm.
then I think they had moved to France or something. Anyways, I think they moved someplace else and then started bringing in Brazilian music because
Yeah.
whatever, there was a scene there or something. But it's it's such a rich culture
Yes.
of Brazilian music. So many different types of Brazilian
Yes.
music,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot to bring in there.
Yeah.
I want to talk briefly about your kind of lifestyle as a musician. What's it like? In I've lived in New York and Chicago, and I've known lots of musicians. Some people are going on tours, some people are putting out records, some people they've got a day job and they kind of play on the side, but they're incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What's your approach to making it all work?
So my whole thing is everything that I do to make a living, I try to make just about everything be related to music in some way. But obviously, I don't, I would say a good chunk of my living is made by performing, which I'm very grateful for. But I do other things too. I teach. I had an adjunct college teaching gig for a year. I have a studio of private students that I teach out of my home studio. Um, and I go in to some of the local schools here and do rhythm sectionals to stuff like that. So I do a decent amount in the education realm, um, and then I also do. I've learned how to use Finale and like notation software really well. So I do everything from transcription, commissioned arrangements, just engraving jobs where people will give me handwritten scores and want me to digitize them. Um, so that's kind of that realm of things. I do some light, like mixing and mastering type stuff. I don't do that stuff very often, but occasionally that kind of work will come across. And um, let's see, what else do I do? I try to be a jack of all trades and all around the music industry. I and then as far as the playing goes, obviously I don't just do jazz gigs. It's basically impossible to make a living playing just jazz gigs in the Midwest. I mean, that's the reality of it. So I do all kinds of gigs, weddings, corporate stuff, all kinds of top 40 gigs. I play with an Elvis impersonator. I do Elvis shows. They're actually really
Nice.
fun. I have a great time playing like the rockabilly piano stuff. That's always a blast. Um, and then I also, will get to play some really cool, like kind of high level music performances too. I have the good fortune of getting to play with this great jazz guitarist who's been making waves in the jazz world, Dan Wilson. I'll play with him a couple times a year. He still lives in Akron, so he does shows in Ohio, and sometimes I get the good fortune of being in his rhythm section. I get to play with Walfredo Reyes Jr., who's the touring drummer for Chicago. We have like a local trio, and we've been putting out some recordings as a trio as well with Walfredo and bassist Matt Wiles and myself. I do recording, both home recording and sometimes people will have me come in. Just this past Tuesday, I did a recording session of like local Cincinnati musicians were putting together like a funky like vibey Christmas album. So all kinds of stuff,
Hmm.
whatever it takes to cobble the schedule together and um, somehow I still kind of marvel at how my schedule works because you look 6 months ahead and there's almost nothing, and then 6 month passes and it all manages to fill up somehow. So it's a
That's great.
little bit harrowing at times, I suppose, but Cincinnati has been really good to me. This area, people have really given me a lot of good opportunities around here, and I certainly don't take that for granted. So I
Hmm.
consider myself lucky enough to be a full-time musician.
Do you ever go out to do like tour gigs, right? Where
Mhm.
you're going on location?
Yeah, about maybe once or twice a year, I do regional tours. I haven't done any big national tours, but usually it's between 1 and 2 week regional tours. I did a couple with this saxophonist arranger, Stephen Philip Harvey. Um, I did a tour with Cincinnati bassist Freak Bass a few years ago. Um, all kinds of stuff, and again, it tends to be more like Midwest and South regional tours. For whatever reason, Texas and Florida end up having me way more than anywhere else. I don't know how that happens, but I end up
Hmm.
in Texas and Florida to play quite a bit. So,
Hmm.
um,
Well,
uh,
there's certainly jazz rich scenes in those
oh
places,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that would make sense.
yeah.
That attracts the style.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
not always jazz either. I'll do tours of all kinds of music, and it's always different, and I like experiencing new stuff, learning a new book.
where in Florida and Texas? You go to Miami, you go to Austin, you go to other places.
Let's see, in Florida, the last time it was kind of in the like Tampa, like West Florida area, and then we went up north. Let's see, we started in the Tampa area, and then we went up to Atlanta, and then Nashville, and then back up to Cincinnati. So I'll follow that kind of circuit sometimes. And then in Texas, it's been a little while since I played in Texas, but I end up in Dallas quite a bit. Um, and then just before, I think the year before the pandemic, I did this fun tour with this New York bassist, Leo Sherman, through Dallas, Austin, and Houston. So um, yeah, lots of cool music in Texas in particular. The Dallas scene has some Dallas Fort Worth scene has some really really incredible players,
Hmm.
and I got to meet many of them last time I passed through.
Yes, I've heard. I need to. It's time for me to get out there to Texas.
Yeah,
I definitely have some friends that are moving there.
yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of good stuff.
Austin's got a
Um,
really cool scene too. I really like Austin a lot.
Tell us about your experience with pianos. moving between jazz and classical?
Hmm.
Have you found that you prefer playing on specific instruments if you're playing classical music versus jazz?
Yeah. So when I play jazz, one of my main priorities out of the instrument is having like a quick response so that I can play as rhythmically accurately as I can. So I like Yamahas a lot because they're very consistent and they tend to have a lighter action. I know Chick Corea played exclusively Yamahas for most of his career, and I kind of agree with Chick that Yamahas, to me, are kind of the best piano for, especially like precise rhythmic playing. Um, and I actually prefer smaller pianos. My favorite size of piano to play, at least jazz on, is the studio grand size. And downstairs in my house, I have a Yamaha C3, which is one of my favorite pianos to play on. Um, but it's really interesting. I remember. So you mentioned in my bio that I played at that Yamaha Artist Center competition in New
Hmm.
York, and the competition piano was one of these massive, like 9 foot Bosendorfers, and it was a tremendous instrument, like an incredible instrument. And you play one note, and it's like it fills the room up, and it's unbelievable in a lot of ways. But something that I found playing on bigger instruments like that, even when they have like a nice smooth action like those Bosendorfers do, the sound takes that tiny bit of extra time to travel all the way down the string. And that is enough to affect my conception of how everything lands rhythmically. So even like really, really nice big pianos require um, an adjustment period just to kind of figure out how to play really properly in time. Whereas when I'm playing classical music, I love those kinds of instruments because it gives you like a sound to sink into a lot more, right? You're not so concerned with all of your rhythms being locked into this grid with everybody else, or,
Hmm.
maybe not a grid necessarily, but you're concerned with your rhythms really being tight with the rest of a band. Whereas when you're playing classical music, it's all about like allowing like sinking into the sound of the instrument and just kind of letting it sing without being so concentrated on rhythm. So that's kind of my general philosophy is on jazz. I like snappy instruments that I'm able to play really rhythmically accurately on, and on classical, I like having these kind of bigger, fluffier pianos. I like Baldwins for classical music too. They tend to, and Steinways too. They tend to be just a touch slower on the action, but on when I'm playing like classical repertoire, that doesn't that's fine. I think it can be a good thing sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah,
But I
appreciate that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
How have you found piano getting a piano technician out there in Cincinnati? You find somebody good? You got a
Oh
handful of
yeah.
folks? Like, how
Oh
does that
yeah.
work?
We have some fabulous piano technicians here. The main guy, so on this piano, I had all the low strings replaced on it a few years ago, and you got to get a good technician to do that. And there's this guy in Cincinnati. I think he's one of the most genius piano technicians in the world. I think he's like a top, top, top world class piano technician. His name is Nevin Essex. And he'd be somebody I would be glad to forward you his information to have him on here because I think he's absolutely brilliant. So Nevin is kind of the top guy, and he did like string replacement and voicing work on this piano. And then there are other technicians who are actually, many of whom are Nevin's former apprentices. Dan Dorff and Rob Allgaier are two guys around Cincinnati, both wonderful pianists in their own right as well, um, who do kind of more the routine tuning stuff. And then for bigger jobs, Nevin is the guy. It's
Right?
unbelievable.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't heard of him, so I see a podcast interview with Nevin Essex
Yeah.
on the Distiller podcast.
Yeah,
Let's
if
see.
you if you if you can get him,
Yeah, man, it's
Uh,
awesome.
he's as good as they get.
Um, Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your commitment to and passion for the acoustic piano.
Yeah,
I can, you're playing it on your record, and I think these days it takes a lot, right? To even you're investing a lot of time in being an artist, right? You're pulling together all this disparate stuff so you can make art. You're
yep,
using acoustic instrument when, you could say, oh, let's just do digital. We don't have to get a piano tuner. We don't have
yeah,
to get strings on it, whatever.
yep.
But I think it does shine through, in the music, in the art that you're putting that
Well,
commitment into
thank you.
it. So hopefully you'll continue to be able to do so.
Yeah.
How do you see things long term? You speaking of that, do you feel like, you'll narrow in on a specific domain? Maybe you'll continue to be, sort of pulling things around from different places. Do you ever see yourself moving, or I don't know, getting into some other, larger scale compositions,
Yeah.
with ensembles or something? Where do you see things going?
That's a really good question. For in a lot of ways, I like to think 10 years ahead of where I might be, right? And in 10 years, I could definitely see myself moving somewhere. I'm not really attracted to the big coastal scenes like New York or LA. Um, just because I'm just not that interested in living in a city of that size. It comes with a lot of opportunities, but the types of day-to-day challenges that come with living in a big city like that is just something I'm not that interested in. Who knows? Maybe 10 years from now I'll change my mind, but if I were to move somewhere, I'm interested in places that might be similarly sized to Cincinnati, just kind of like a mid-sized city here in the U.S. But maybe moving. My wife and I have talked about the possibility of moving somewhere like Barcelona, or or somewhere in France. Maybe not Paris, but or moving to one of the German cities. There's a lot of really cool opportunities to be had in not cities that are bigger than here, but ones that just have totally different sets of connections. So that's a possibility. Um, I definitely would like to focus more on writing. I like writing for the piano, so I might something I've been thinking about a lot is the idea of fleshing out some of my compositions as just full scores, so people can just play them. Um, I also have aspirations to write for larger ensembles too. I've written for jazz big band a decent amount, but I really like writing for strings and for especially the more delicate woodwinds like flutes and clarinets and oboes. I love writing for all of those instruments. So um, I'm definitely in the next 10 years, I'd like to narrow my focus and be more as much as I love playing, I think writing and arranging is my biggest strength as a musician, and I'd like to lean into that a lot more.
Have you been to Barcelona?
I haven't yet. That's definitely for our next, international trip, that's definitely near the top of the list of places to check out. I know a number of musicians that have moved to Barcelona. A couple of great jazz fusion musicians I admire a lot. Frank Gambale and Gary Willis have both moved to Barcelona, and they're still doing their thing. They're going on tours and whatever, but I think they're happy making their living and living their life in that city. So
Hmm.
definitely worth looking into for me at the very least.
I visited there for the first time this like maybe a year or two ago,
Yeah,
and oh, it's a great city. Yeah,
yeah,
it's really nice for culture and food and
yeah. Oh, and I love
um
food, so that's a big
yeah. Oh
big
my
selling point
gosh,
for me.
I had a I had a artichoke. It was literally just like an artichoke in olive oil, but it
Yeah,
was like it had the right, you know. type of olive oil, the right
Oh
type of salt. It was like the
yeah.
freshest artichoke. And you're like,
Yep.
oh, this is
Yep.
amazing.
Oh man.
Uh, um, and Chano Dominguez is
Hmm.
a Spanish player. He's been on the podcast, and
Yeah.
I tuned piano for him when he was living in New York,
Oh, cool.
and
That's awesome.
got to go out and hang out with him at his home. He doesn't live. I think he has a place in Barcelona, but he has a house about an hour away.
Okay. Yeah.
And we hung out a little bit. We played around in his recording studio. We played a little
Cool.
ping pong. We had a little lunch.
Nice.
But he's a great guy. Um, so yeah, if you ever move to Barcelona, I'll connect you with Chano. I
Oh
don't know if
man,
he'll
that would
still
be
be there,
wonderful.
but
Yeah.
yeah. Let's listen to another track. Maybe we got time for one more before we roll out. What would you recommend?
Sure. Let's do the closing track. Let's do Lullaby just for something different.
Let's go. All right, let's play the influences game on that one.
Yeah, sure.
I've got another one in mind, like I did with Brad Melda, but I want to
Uh-huh.
hear what you think of when you hear
Well,
that one.
Yeah, I mean the chief influence for that kind of thing is Bill Evans, like always. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
that's Bill Evans was one of the first pianists that I really got into when I was younger. And again, it's like I was saying with Flow Out too. It's like I feel like my influences have spread out a lot more like since then. But I have this special fondness for my first influences. Bill Evans and Herbie Hancock are two of the first pianists that I really started to dig into a lot. And then definitely, I wouldn't say that he's a big influence on my playing. It's not like I studied any of his recordings or anything, but the sound of Vince Guaraldi's music is ubiquitous through my
That's what I was
childhood,
gonna
you know.
say.
So it
Actually,
came,
those are the two that I thought of. I thought of I thought of Vince Guaraldi first. I
yes.
thought of just listening to that, the famous Christmas album, right?
Hmm.
And just kind of hearing him bang something out on there and catching
Yeah,
that vibe, that holiday kind of just like feel good, you
yeah.
know. But then I also thought of Bill Evans as well. All right,
Yeah,
so
yeah. That stuff, I mean, the Peanuts soundtrack is like, I mean, it's baked into my musical identity, right? It's like the Peanuts music, all of the music from Looney Tunes. Um, seriously, I mean, Looney Tunes was a huge part of
like
my.
the classical music,
Yeah, exactly. The
right?
classics, all the American songbook stuff, all
Mm-hmm.
everything in those Looney Tunes soundtracks is, whether kids know it or not, they're receiving some serious like cultural music education
Mm-hmm.
from those cartoons, and that is a huge part of my musical identity. Seriously, can't escape it.
Funny, my 7-year-old was playing Roblox earlier,
Yeah,
and that's debatable, whether that's a good thing or not. But
yeah. Yeah.
and then they have various soundtracks with the things, and I heard Eric Satie.
Oh yeah, nice.
As just like one of the Roblox songs. I was like, well, at least he's getting some classical, getting
Exactly.
some
Yeah,
classical
got to sneak them
foundations
in.
there. Yeah. Um, all right. Well, we should probably wrap up soon. It's about the end of the hour. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom, calls to action here before we roll out and do our outro?
Man, just to everybody out there, make your own stuff and make it you. I think that there's a lot of, not even to discuss the whole deal that's like AI creation now. Like I'm not even going to address that. But even beyond that, social media and a lot of cultural influences today are really trying to push people to be something, right? Something that you think you're supposed to be. And if there's one message or, ethos that I try to make all of the music that I play and write abide by is just be you um, and be comfortable with who you are and make stuff that's true to yourself. Don't try to let other people tell you what you're supposed to be or who you're supposed to be.
All right. I like that. That's a good one. Do you follow oh shoot, what am I thinking? The producer, the famous producer that produced all those records. He's got the big beard.
Oh, Rick
And
Rubin.
Rick Rubin. Yeah, you
Yeah,
follow Rick Rubin at all?
a little bit, not super closely or anything, but I'm
Um,
sure he
I
has that same idea, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's got a podcast. He's got a couple podcasts actually, and one of them is with a couple other folks with Malcolm Gladwell
Yeah.
and Bruce Headlam, and then he has his own Tetragrammaton, and he wrote a book on creativity recently. But it's refreshing to hear him, the guy who you know, is behind all the different hits,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, like a hit
Is
maker.
that
Yeah,
whenever he sat down with folks, he wasn't like, okay, here's how we're gonna make a hit. He would be like,
yeah,
let's just
yeah,
get your voice. Let's just do your thing. Don't try to be anything else,
yes,
and let's just
yeah,
take it from there.
yeah,
So I like that.
yeah.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, we have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Of course, we want to thank our guest Ben Tweet for joining us. today. Um, for those of you that joined us today by signing up for this radio hour session individually, you can always join Piano Tech Radio Hour, Piano Technicians Master Classes. Make your life more convenient. You get these episodes in our member area and come for each recording session each Saturday. It's just $16 a month. You get all that, and you get to be here with us. So you could sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. And don't forget about the audio only podcast, pianotechradio.com, the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Go to our website, sign up for the email list, pianotechnicmasterclass.com. And hope you all have a great week. Ben, I will sign off the Zoom, but if you could actually click the link again, sign back on, you and me could do a quick wrap up.
Sure.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, everyone.